Hello and welcome to Tales of the Basement podcast, the newest place for all things nerd culture, discussion, debates, and hot takes. I'm Joe and I'm here with my good friend Iron. Say hi, Iron.
Hello.
We actually have a very special Star Wars themed episode today. We'll be talking about the Ubisoft Star Wars Outlaws situation, what we believe the proper Star Wars timeline cinematic watch order to be, and the issues we have with the new Star Wars canon circa 2014. Ready, Iron?
I am.
Alright, let's do this. First off, let me ask you, would you consider yourself to be a Star Wars aficionado?
Aficionado, maybe not. I mean, when it came to the older books and older stories, I probably would call myself that, but with the newer stuff, not as much.
Okay. How long have you been a Star Wars fan? Do you know?
Oh, since the first time I saw episode 4, I was probably 4 or 5 years old. Um, and that movie just was. My grandfather actually had it on a reel, so he actually pulled out his projector and we actually watched it in his house on a reel, and it just grabbed my attention. I mean, it was science fiction, but it was also fantasy, all kind of mixed in together.
That's awesome. I think my first experience with Star Wars is probably the Spaceballs movie, which is a parody of it.
Oh, yes.
I didn't really
Got
grow,
it.
yeah, I didn't really grow up too much with it myself. But I'm at a point now where I'm very interested in what's going on, especially in the films and
Yeah, the TV shows have done a really good job, but we'll talk about that.
absolutely. All right, so we are going to go into our first topic of the night. We are going to talk about the Star Wars Outlaws pre-order situation. Let's go ahead and dive right in. Now, according to the website that Ubisoft came out with, they're the ones making the game. They got several different categories or different editions that you can buy the game at, starting with the standard edition, base price of $70, and it goes up from there to premium versions. You got your gold edition, your ultimate edition, and then your ultimate edition plus that you get with the subscription with Ubisoft Plus, starting at $110, $130, $18 a month for each. Now, the controversy about the game itself comes with the premium editions that you have to pay extra for, over $100 for, in order to get 3 days early access and the season pass, which includes the Jabba's Gambit, which is an exclusive mission that features Jabba the Hutt, and essentially relegates the base game incomplete at launch. So all versions of the game, including the physical copies, must be connected to the internet in order to be installed. In that sense, it's like, what's the point of even getting it physical if you have to be connected to the internet, anyways? So they're locking that exclusive mission behind a minimum $110 edition of the game, and it's not the first time a AAA studio has done this, or even Ubisoft for that. Speaking of premium editions,
Well,
like I said, the 30-day early access. How do you feel about this pre-order situation?
well, I mean, Ubisoft, EA, it doesn't matter which gaming system it is or company it is out there. They've been doing this more and more, and I've heard them talking about with the new Grand Theft Auto. They're talking about doing something like this, so this is not new. We even saw this with Harry Potter, the Legacy. What was it called? Harry Potter Legacy, right?
Hogwarts Legacy.
Hogwarts Legacy.
Yeah.
There was, different pre-orders depending on if you got it on the Xbox or the PlayStation. Um, Now having it $109 just to have 3 days early access and having that season pass, I think is absolutely 100% ridiculous.
Yeah.
But let's talk about a way to get around that. I mean, just look at that. If you signed up for a month of Ubisoft Plus, you get all those things, and then you buy the actual game, and you kind of get around that.
Can you elaborate what you mean by that?
Well, I mean, I can log in, pay $17.99. I can probably beat the game in like 4 or 5 days. Um, and then I don't have to worry about anything. Then I've got my early day, I got my season pass, I've
I
got my
see what you're
3-day
saying.
early bonus.
Yeah.
And so honestly, I think things like this with Ubisoft, they're actually going to end up losing money by offering this 3 days ahead of time for those active gamers like me that will turn around, find this game, and beat it in maybe a week and a half.
What
And then
it?
as soon as I'm done, I get rid of Ubisoft.
Yeah, I absolutely understand what you're saying. What if it's like another one of those situations where they have to pull the game early because it was broken at launch, and then that relegates you less time to be able to play it during the 3-day early access?
I mean, if they do that, then they're going to have a lot of angry customers, especially the ones that paid, an extra $40 to get it 3 days early. And that there's going to be a lot of people that are doing that. They don't care about the season pass. They they want those 3 extra days because they want to be able to stream it.
Yeah,
They want, people are willing to pay that extra $40, $30, 40, yeah, 40.
yeah.
Um, to be able to start streaming it 3 days earlier. And if they end up pulling it, they're going to have a lot of angry customers.
It's not the first time that's happened either. Suicide Squad had a very similar issue where they had like a glitch going on with the game that essentially allowed you to earn a platinum trophy just for turning it on, and they had to pull it.
Yeah, and I'm not knocking Suicide Squad. I'm sure it's a wonderful game. But here's my thought about that one is not as many people are going to be trying to stream that right away. And it's not going to have as big of a fan base as a Star Wars game, especially Outlaws. Outlaws has been in the works for at least 8 years. They actually had a version of this, and I remember watching the gameplay of this years ago before it got scrapped, and then it got picked up by Ubisoft in the last 4 or 5 years.
Oh wow!
So this is an old game that they've been working on, and a lot of people are super excited about this because it actually, if they kept everything, it's going to be going on to actually Coruscant, and um, very few actual games has been on Coruscant, which is this big, massive, city planet, right?
Yeah, the entire planet space.
And
City.
so there's parts of it that you're going to be going into the undercity, underworld, and so that's what makes this game so exciting to me is you're playing the Outlaws, you're playing the Rift Raft, the all these different things, and so you're going to be doing things that you've never done in any other Star Wars games.
Nice. Yeah,
Um,
I was taking a look at the trailers pretty recently myself, and from what they showed, I'm very interested in checking this out. Maybe just not at launch.
right, and that's another thing. The last like 3 games of Star Wars haven't really been that good. They try to hold on to that same feel, but they don't have the story-driven games like when BioWare released KOTOR.
Hmm. I heard a lot of great things about Jedi Survivor, though. Have you played
Yeah,
that?
I have. I played Jedi Survivor, the first one, and I was just very disappointed of the lack of choices. It was more of a
Streamline, like basically Uncharted style game.
right. And I mean, you did have some choices, but it wasn't as open as KOTOR or Mass Effect or other things like that.
Right, I got you. How is paying extra for allowing a 3-day early access period affecting the gaming industry as a whole?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't know if it's really affecting the gaming industry. It's just allowing people or forcing people that are really into a specific kind of game to pay to be able to play it with their friends or play it early.
You mean on time?
On time. I mean, it really is.
That's the
I
argument that's
remember,
going around, is that you pay extra to be able to play it on time, and if you don't, you're playing it late. And they're only
right.
passing it off as playing early.
I can't even imagine game Game Freak trying to do this with Pokemon. If they tried to, do some sort of like early 3-day release, that would upset so many people
Yeah.
because they're used to their certain price points.
Yeah.
Now,
Not to mention, like, all the prices for this structure has gone up from 60 to 70, from 100 to 100, and so on and so forth.
exactly. And you nailed it on the head earlier when we were talking. You said that you get an incomplete game. You're pretty much buying the DLC bonus at launch, which, in my opinion, if it's at launch, it shouldn't be DLC.
It shouldn't be locked away like that. Yeah, I'm
Right.
extremely biased with that kind of content, and it's not really something I choose to support.
Right. No, I totally agree.
But if we
But
wait a year, we can see this game probably going down for at least 50% off.
right, 50% off. However, if it is all locked behind digital purchases, are we going to ever be able to get the season pass or those what do we call it again? The mission was the Jabba's Gambit and the
Yeah,
Kessel Run.
right.
Would you be able to get those at a knockdown price?
Okay, are you saying like those are exclusively pre-order bonuses?
No, I'm not saying
Part
they're
of the season
pre-order
pass?
bonuses.
Okay.
No, I'm saying that I think that so many. I mean, even on Steam, you look at a game that's 5 years old. That if it has all the bonuses and all the DLCs, the price really doesn't drop all that much if it's a good game.
Especially if you're Nintendo.
Especially if you're Nintendo.
Understand.
But I mean,
Yeah.
with Disney having their hand in this, which we'll talk about that later.
It just makes me sick to my stomach that companies are able to get away with stuff like this. I'll say this once that I pretty much taken a step back from buying games brand new day one, because one, they usually release broken, and two, is generally greedy monetization. Not to mention the DRM that's usually attached to these things as well. Plus, I got a huge backlog of games that I'd rather play first before diving into something like this. I would love to play Star Wars Outlaws. Watching the trailer is really getting me excited for it, but I cannot support it.
No,
but when it goes on sale later on, when it fixes its bugs, it glitches, or whatever that's got going on with the game, any controversy, then I'll definitely pick it up then.
I mean, the only reason I might even consider would be to be able to stream it. But
yeah, it's.
I mean, but if I did that, it would be just I would just pay the $17.99 and not buy the game.
Yeah, and then bypass having to spend so much of it. I wonder if companies like Ubisoft with all these subscription services are catching on like Netflix. Good God, how there's like a fee tacked on if you're like quitting your subscription and then trying to resubscribe.
Oh, I don't know.
Have you heard about that?
I haven't heard about that. No. I haven't touched Netflix in a long time. I'm waiting for Bridgerton to come back out.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to our next topic of the night. We have the big one we've all been waiting for. The proper Star Wars cinematic timeline watch order. What we believe is the definitive correct order to watch any of the movies and TV shows that has released. So we're going to go ahead and hop on to Wikipedia of all sources.
All right. Let me enlarge this so I can see it a little bit better.
Yeah. So this is breaking down essentially a visualization of the different eras of Star Wars. I'm pretty sure you can agree that you recognize a lot of this stuff. So this is like the big picture timeline up here at the top, and then you got the smaller picture closing in around the end of this time.
Right. I actually just bought a whole bunch of the High Republic books.
Oh, very nice.
Starting to read. Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. So, back to my notes here. This is going to be a watch order that makes sense for the flow of the timeline and understandable for newcomers. So if things are happening pretty much at the same time, For example, Andor and Rebels are essentially happening at the same time. Uh,
Right.
I know for sure Rebels is a show. Andor is a show as well. Is that correct?
Yes. They're
Okay.
both shows. Yes.
Okay, and they have multiple seasons spread across each other. So, say like it would make sense to probably split up a season, like watch one season of a show, go and watch another season of a show, and then swap back and forth in that sense. Um, but if it doesn't work out that way, as far as understanding what's going on in the universe, then that would not. For now, let's just go ahead and ignore whether a production is canon or not. We will do that in our next segment. And this is solely about understanding the Star Wars lore.
Okay.
So, Iron, here's how this is going to work. I have my professionally researched, 100% accurate, definitive edition list, and you have yours. We'll go through each title one by one, starting with the first title we believe fits at the beginning of the timeline and work our way down. Tell me if the title is actually worth watching or not. Should we have a dispute about where the placement of a certain title goes, then we will discuss it. So, without further ado, the first title we have taking place in the Star Wars timeline is... What you got?
A New Hope.
Okay, you lost me.
What do you mean? I lost you. A New Hope.
That's
episode 4.
okay. We're talking about in the canon, the Star Wars timeline canon, not specifically when everything like released.
No. I'm saying watch order. You should always watch episode 4 first. I don't care when all the other ones happened. I think you should watch episode 4 first.
Yeah, but it doesn't occur first in the timeline.
No.
Oh, okay. Carry on. Go ahead. Why should we watch episode 4 first?
That movie is what set the entire stage. Episodes 4, 5, and 6, they're the ones that designed, showed, brought in the life of Star Wars. You can go back and watch the prequels, awesome, but the prequels are heavily, based in politics, and they're doing all these crazy things.
Right.
But if you want a good story, and if you want to get into it,
okay,
I highly suggest episodes 4, 5, and 6. Now, if you don't care about like story or anything like that, yeah, of course, go back and watch Tales of the Jedi or the prequel trilogy. Sure, go ahead. But I still feel like if you're going to go and say, I want to know the story as it was designed, you need to still start where it all began.
Gotcha.
And that's episode 4.
All right, I am very curious to hear the rest of your lists. So for now, let's just go ahead and stick with what you got, and then we'll go ahead and swap over to what I got, because I guarantee I have a vastly different list than what you got.
So yeah, I would go I'd go 4, 5, 6.
Okay.
And then I would definitely go with 1 and 2. But then I would kick in this the Clone Wars, the TV show. Only the first 3 seasons though.
6. 1 and 2.
Right.
I'm gonna write this down. And you got the Clone Wars TV show.
Right.
Now, is it Star Wars Clone Wars or Star Wars the Clone Wars?
No, the cartoon.
Yeah, they're both cartoons.
The Clone Wars. Yeah. Wait, what? Wait, what? No.
I've done my research, yeah. There are 2 Clone Wars shows. One, God, I have to look this up on Wikipedia.
Hold on.
Yeah, let's see.
Okay, The Clone Wars.
You got The Clone Wars that released in 2008.
Right, that one.
And you got Clone Wars that released in 2003.
No, because Clone Wars that released in 2003. Oh wait, hold on. Oh, that was just a micro miniseries, though.
Yeah, on Cartoon Network. Well, they're both on Cartoon Network.
If I'm not mistaken,
there was 3 seasons of the original Clone Wars. 25 episodes. according to this article. Should it be
No,
right?
and it probably is right. I clump those two together
Got it.
because they follow the same storyline. Um, if I'm not mistaken, they follow the same storyline, the same people. They were just there was a small break in between, and there probably was some sort of licensing issue. That's why they had to put the word "the" in there. I'd have to do a little bit more research there, but that's why I said the first 3 episodes or first 3 seasons.
Okay.
Um,
The first
and
3 seasons. Okay.
Yeah, because I didn't realize that they actually were separate. But yeah, it would be the one from 2003, the first 3 seasons, because they were the best.
Oh, you're
It
talking
kinda
about the
got
original Clone Wars. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. It got a little weird, in my opinion, after that. I still love it, and I would go back and watch it again. But
Gotcha.
as far as going with the timeline, I would definitely go with that. Bad Batch, you could watch right after that.
Oh, yeah.
But I would save Bad Batch till after you watch episode 3. And then I would go with Bad Batch.
Okay. Yeah, I actually just finished Bad Batch. That was a great show, in my opinion.
Oh, it actually follows it follows a book series. I can't remember the name of the book. I'll have to look it back up. But there was a book series written back about the Clone Wars, or the clones that were with Obi-Wan and Anakin.
Yeah.
And so there was actually a book that was kind of based off of. I just can't remember which one.
Okay. What do you have after the Bad Batch?
So after the Bad Batch, we went with Clone Wars, then we went to episode 3, then we came back down to the Bad Batch. I like Rogue One. It's a good movie.
Okay.
But then you also have what were the other? Sorry, can you pull up the other thing that we were looking at earlier? Your timeline.
Here it is.
That one.
Yeah.
Oh, is that just online? Gotcha.
Yeah, it's online.
I honestly didn't really watch the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, so I can't tell you how well that is.
Okay.
I watched a couple
episodes. I haven't heard really good things about
it. Rebels for sure.
I got halfway through Rebels. Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, Rebels is awesome. But once you get to there, watch The Mandalorian, Boba Fett, Ahsoka. Watching those right there and ignoring anything else. Honestly, you should never watch The Force Awakens.
Okay. So, your timeline ends at the New Republic.
Oh, yeah.
That's it. Everything else doesn't matter.
Everything else is the worst thing that's ever happened to the Star Wars franchise.
Good. Okay, is there anything else you'd like to add to your timeline?
I don't think so.
Step aside, young Padawan.
Oh, don't even get
the men have entered the room.
No.
Alright, so I did my research on this, and I got a lot going on with this. I'm including just about every show and movie that hit my radar, essentially, whether I've seen it or not. Okay. It's up to you to determine whether I should watch it going forward. So we're going to start with the High Republic era of Star Wars, with a show called Star Wars Young Jedi Adventures. Essentially, a show specifically made for kids about young, I guess, Jedi trainees or Padawans going about their own adventures. I saw a few episodes of it myself, and Of course, it's not for me. I'm not a child, but it looks interesting enough for any. I guess specifically for my kids, should they get old enough to dive into Star Wars, recommend it. Do you know anything about it?
I have seen it as something to watch, but no, I'm not a child. It's probably really poorly put together by Disney. So no, I would not recommend it.
Okay.
Which is why I didn't even add it to my list.
Right. Okay. After that is a show that's going to be releasing soon called Star Wars: The Acolyte. Do you know anything about this one?
No. I have not seen it. Now, that is prequel, right?
That is still part of the High Republic timeline. Here on this timeline, you can actually see the little orange speck right here for the Acolyte that takes place around 130 BBY. Is that right? BBY? Is that the timeline that they use in Star Wars?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
I have not, and I haven't even done anything with the High Republic series yet. I'm getting into it.
Gotcha.
But no, I have not touched the High Republic. And honestly, there's a lot of games that do a lot better in that area.
Right. Like Knights of the Old Republic.
Right, which they're trying to also write out of canon. So I'm over here going, why would I? Now, I mean, I'm going to read the books because I'm excited to read books.
Right.
But a book is a book versus making a movie or TV show is trying to overwrite canon.
Right.
Or previous canon.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll watch it. But I can't necessarily say I'm going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
We'll see.
After that, we're going to dive into part 2 of Tales of the Jedi. I don't know if you've seen it, but it revolves around the Count Dooku and I guess whatever he did to betray the Jedi at the time.
That was a cartoon, right?
Is it? I know nothing about it.
Hold on, I'm gonna Tales of the Jedi Count Dooku. Let me see here. Yeah, it's a cartoon.
Okay.
Um,
Apparently dives into his backstory, the timeline.
Yeah, and I've read those books or read books about that timeline. I don't have access to that show.
Okay.
So no, I haven't really watched it.
Gotcha. I don't even know.
I mean, honestly, anything made within the last 10 years
Should be on Disney Plus, right?
I mean, possibly, but I wouldn't even consider it worth watching. Because I really will talk about it, but I think that Disney destroyed Star Wars. So,
we'll get to that.
Yeah, I know. You keep on.
All right. Next on my list is when we get to the real nitty gritty stuff is the Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace.
Okay.
Starting with I guess the first movie of the trilogy. Would you recommend watching this one?
I mean, yeah, I'd watch it. I wouldn't watch it there, but I'd watch it.
Okay, understood. I'm just going based off the canon timeline that they got going on here. I'd recommend it as well. I've seen it myself. Now, I'm actually probably one of the few who would actually state that I would consider liking the prequel trilogy, in the sense that it's actually, when you think of a war, you think of politics, and that's really what it's all about, is the political battle between all these different worlds. Even though there's not as much lightsaber lightsaber duels, starfighter battles in space as well. It is stuff that we would generally like to see in a Star Wars movie. But I was actually quite interested in the politics that was going on in this prequel trilogy and the rise of the Empire.
Right. Oh, I love. I mean, I'm also one of those people that I agree. I like the prequel trilogy. I just also it throws you in, making you feel like you already know um the story.
Okay.
And if you don't know the story, and that's why I would also hesitate to say going and watching The Acolyte or any other show slash movie in Star Wars is because they don't introduce the Force. They assume that you already know what it is.
Understood. I see what you're getting from, and I understand why you recommend the original first and foremost. Getting into
Yeah,
completely
but no,
understandable.
I love the prequel trilogy. I mean, I actually like Jar Jar. Maybe I'm one of the few people, but he's annoying. Uh, but if you actually, I'm also one of those people that believes he's actually a high Sith Lord, and
Oh my God.
everything he did was actually a purpose. But whatever.
Yeah. Okay. Speaking of Jar Jar, I understand he's a joke character. I actually laughed at a few of his jokes, and I kind of understand a little bit of why he's in the movie. I guess specifically for comic relief, but yeah, they definitely could have chose a better character to fill his place.
Yeah, well, I mean, they were trying to choose. George Lucas goes, "Oh, I can make something that is not human looking and not a droid that looks like a human. Okay, cool. Let's go ahead and do this." And so I see what he was trying to do.
Right.
And I mean, he was using CGI and doing all these crazy things
Yeah.
that he wouldn't have been able to do during episodes 4, 5, and 6.
Right.
Um, like even with Jabba the Hutt back in the days, it was an animatronic,
Right.
and like the scene where in episode 4 that was cut out of the original and brought back in whenever they did the digital remaster. Han Solo walks around the back of him, and they actually had to like digitally make Han Solo move up and then come back down
Oh.
because they didn't even realize, like, they didn't know what Jabba the Hutt was going to look like back then. And
Oh. Okay.
so, like, there's this whole thing. It's really fun to go watch, but
Interesting. Yeah, it does sound interesting.
they weren't able to do the CGI until much much later.
Gotcha.
So I see what they were doing with Jar Jar Binks, and honestly, I really think that he was enjoyable. He was annoying, but he was enjoyable. And I honestly, they should have kept him a lot more in episodes 2 and 3. But they kind of like, oh no, people are upset at us, so let's get rid of him. And they kind of just wrote him out.
Well, they kind of relegated him to just the Senate position, which is fine. I mean, I got no qualms with Jar Jar. I think he served his purpose and nothing.
Oh yeah, I agree.
So immediately after episode 1 is episode 2, Attack of the Clones.
Right.
That's the whole I hate sand kind of movie, dealing with the awful writing with Anakin Skywalker and his love crisis that he's got going on in that movie.
And he's super broody. Yeah.
Yes. God. Everything else about the movie is qualms, but yeah,
Right.
I did not believe the acting that they put on to that character. Moving on. After that, I got that's when the Clone Wars began. Is at the end of that movie. So shortly after, I got the first 3 seasons of the original 03 version of Star Wars Clone Wars. Getting through that season or that series, and then we got Star Wars: The Clone Wars that appeared in 2008. There was a movie for that at the beginning there, basically start off and introduce what that show was going to be like.
Yes.
Yeah, so
and it was actually really good. Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. I went back and rewatched that about so you watch that first, and then you get into the entire show. And from my understanding, the last season appeared in 2020. So they had like the first 5 seasons on Cartoon Network, and I think Netflix took over and then did a season of their own. and then Disney Plus took it over and did a final season to kind of tie everything into episode 3. Is that correct? Have you seen them?
Can you say that again? Sorry.
All right, so let's go back up to television, The Clone Wars. If you can see here, there are 7 seasons total. Cartoon Network, Netflix, and Disney Plus all did work on it.
Right.
And it took place from 2008 to 2020. And the first 5 seasons, from my understanding, Cartoon Network did their thing up to a certain point. I think I've seen all 5 of those. I may have skipped the Netflix 6 one because I wanted to watch final season of Disney Plus before I went into watching episode.
Yes.
So that leads into episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, that I have shortly after that. 5, and recommend watching up to this point the episodes 1, 2, 3, and the Clone Wars TV show and movie. And then shortly after is The Bad Batch, which is a phenomenal show. It really explores, what the rise of the Empire was like shortly after episode 3. And it focuses on the special group of clones called Clone Force 99. And the reason they're so special is because they're different from any of the regs, as they call them. Because they got like enhanced abilities, and definitely a great show. I'd recommend.
Okay, yeah.
Shortly after that is part 1, Tales of the Jedi, focusing on Ahsoka Tano. Would you agree? I don't know if you've seen it,
yes.
But Ahsoka Tano is...
I'm still watching it. I love it. It brings in one of my favorite characters from the Clone Wars.
Yeah, Ahsoka Tano was introduced in the Clone Wars, and she is basically a staple character for the canon, if I'm not mistaken.
She has become one.
She's become one. I mean, she's got her own show. That's the reason I bring it up.
Yeah, she was definitely not a George Lucas write-in.
Yeah.
She was written in with the Cartoon Network series.
Right.
And then brought in with Disney a little bit more.
Fantastic character.
Yeah, fantastic. Love the story. It even brings in, because she was Anakin's Padawan.
Right.
But it was a forced Padawan, and I liked what they did with that.
Yeah, she was originally supposed to be Obi-Wan Kenobi's Padawan, at least so they thought, and then Yoda, I think, made the decision that she was going to be Anakin's Padawan instead.
Right.
So that was a nice twist. Then we have the 1985 show Star Wars Droids. Know anything about this?
Yes.
Have you seen it?
I have.
Can you tell me about it?
Don't watch it.
Considering it's from 1985, I can understand maybe it hasn't really lived up to modern standard.
It has not lived up to modern standards. It was almost like the Star Wars Christmas special. Just it wasn't as bad as that, but it's just still not one of those things where you're over here going, yeah, you have to go watch the droids. It was the best one. No, not really.
Understood.
Now, if they remade it, it might be better, but no, not so much.
Gotcha. Let's see. After that, I have the show Obi-Wan Kenobi that released. And I haven't heard anything good about it. I am not looking forward to watching it.
I mean, Ewan McGregor, amazing actor.
Right.
Love it. I honestly, as I said, I've watched some of it. I haven't finished it.
What do you think of it so far?
I mean, honestly, it's pretty good.
Is it? Okay.
It's got the actor for, I can't remember the actor that played Anakin.
Okay, I'm going to look.
Yeah.
I know I did research on him, just not.
Who played Anakin? Oh, look, Hayden Christensen. There we go.
That's it, Hayden Christensen. Yeah, there you go.
So they brought Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor back together, and it kind of unwrote some of the story, because then all of a sudden, technically, Darth Vader knows that Obi-Wan's still alive, and he even finds him on Tatooine, and so it kind of just does this weird thing. Um, so
Do they fight?
oh yeah, they fight, and that's what's so weird is the
Was it any
story
good?
is.
Sorry. Carry on.
Yes. I mean, it was good. I would not put it in any timeline. It's a good story. It's almost like your grandfather told you the story of Anakin Skywalker, but it's not actually the true story, just a story that your grandfather told you.
I
Does that
gotcha.
make sense?
I guess so.
Like it's not it does not mesh with any of the timelines that are currently out there.
Gotcha. Very interesting take for that. So it's almost like its own pocket dimension.
It is.
Gotcha. Okay, after that, I got the shorts. At least that's what they call it. The Star Wars Rebels shorts, which is supposed to provide backstory, take place before the Star Wars Rebels show. Is that correct?
It is, and what those don't take long to watch, and honestly, I skipped some of them,
Yeah.
but no, they're good. It's really just to get to you to understand the timeline, when things are happening, and who these characters are.
Gotcha.
And those were actually written, if I'm not mistaken, after the show Rebels was already out. Um, because so many people were wondering, it's like,
Actually,
well, where do these people come from? What is this purpose? And so they released something later on, if I'm not mistaken.
okay. Well, according to my research, this Rebels shorts came out in August 11th of 2014, and Rebels shows came out October 3rd. I may have to double check that.
No, I mean it might be. I never found the shorts until well after
Right.
I had already watched the actual show.
Right.
I just always assumed it was them releasing it to explain where they messed up.
Yeah, I haven't even seen the shorts myself. I didn't even know they existed until doing the research for this episode.
Yeah. Released 2014, October 3rd. Okay.
Yeah, and the shorts, first aired August 11th, 2015.
Interesting. Then yeah, if they aired, they were not re-aired. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I didn't find Rebels until season 2. So when I picked it up and started watching season 1, I never even found those episodes until years later.
Gotcha.
So that's interesting. That's really interesting. Because that probably would have fixed a lot of the confusion with that show. That me and other people had.
What kind of confusion did you have with the show?
I mean, it just didn't make sense of what timeline they were in.
Well,
what the area was. I mean, it wasn't until season. Well, I guess it was season 2, partially the way through, that you finally understood. Oh, I mean, how did this person survive? How, why are they being like? Is this taking place during the original trilogy? Is it taking place right before? Is it like right after episode 4? Or sorry, episode 3? Like there was, and maybe I'm the only one that didn't understand that.
okay. I've watched all the way through the first 2 seasons of Rebels. We're talking about Rebels, right?
Yeah, Rebels.
In season 2, I believe they introduced Darth Vader going after them.
Right.
If not
but
season
it wasn't
1.
until. Yeah.
So it was clearly after at least episode 3 when he got turned into Vader.
Right.
But maybe you're right. Where in the original trilogy did it?
Right.
But I guess it never really answered that question either. But it definitely took place after the prequel trilogy.
It did. I knew that much at least, but like, oh, what was? Hold on, Star Wars Rebels. I'm trying to remember the names of all the uh, characters.
I remember Hera. She's awesome.
Yeah, I liked Hera. Um,
Let's see,
yeah,
premise. Ezra Bridger is the main character,
right.
and
It's
his mentor was Kanan.
Canon.
With
That's what I always wanted to know is how did Kanan survive?
Sabine, Hera, Zeb, and Chopper.
Yeah. Yeah. How did Kanan survive
The Clone Wars?
the Clone Wars.
Yeah. Because they talk about the Clone Wars a lot.
They do.
Survived the events of Order 66. He is the Ghost Crew. I guess Wikipedia might have more on this on the topic.
Wookiee? Oh, you're actually on Wikipedia. I always go to Wikipedia.
Which makes sense. Yeah, it would probably be the best place to go to as far as Star Wars lore and stuff.
Right.
Moving on, after Star Wars Rebels, what got me to want to watch Rebels first is watching like the first episode of Ahsoka, and they talk about these different characters that happen in Rebels, and I'm like, who are these characters? So I had to go back and watch Rebels before I started getting into Ahsoka.
Yes.
Because it seems like it's a direct follow up to Rebels.
Right.
Have you seen it?
Ahsoka?
Yeah.
I have not finished it. I think I've watched the first couple episodes. And then school started last year. So I kind of put it on the back burner. But now that it's finished, or at least the season's finished, I'll probably go back and watch it.
Okay. Because according to this Wikipedia timeline, they have Ahsoka all the way over with The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett. Do you agree with that placement?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So it shouldn't be a direct follow-up to Rebels then.
No. I mean, it's definitely after the original trilogy.
Is it now? Okay. Well, I haven't seen it, so I'm going to have to adjust my placement and put Ahsoka further down after episode 6. Is that correct?
You would place it after the first season of Mandalorian, if I'm not mistaken.
Understood. That adjustment. The only reason I made this assumption is because I saw like the first bit of episode 1, and it talked about the characters of Rebels. It made me have to go watch Rebels, so I didn't get to finish the first episode.
Oh, well, then what you are not realizing is the characters of Rebels continue well past that timeline. And you will actually come in and have some of those. You'll have Ezra as an adult.
Oh, interesting. Right. Okay. Okay, then directly after Star Wars Rebels, we have Star Wars Andor. Do you agree with its placement?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Do you think you should watch seasons of Star Wars Andor in between Star Wars and vice versa?
Oh, I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, it's its own thing, own area. There may be a crossover once in a blue moon, but it's definitely, yeah, it's its own little area.
Gotcha. All right. After that, we have Rogue One: A Star Wars Story. Have you seen it?
Absolutely.
That's actually one of the first Star Wars movies that really got me to wanting to be a fan of Star Wars. I really enjoyed this movie, despite its controversy.
Controversy?
Have you not heard?
No.
It got a lot of flack. I can't remember what it was about.
Oh, whatever.
I don't know whether it was woke or not, but maybe the story beats just didn't hit right. Maybe it wasn't like a real Star Wars movie. I don't know what it was, but I saw it in theaters and I really had a good time watching one.
So the fun thing about Rogue One, and I say it's absolutely one of my favorite movies of modern times, and that's because it gives the explanation of the beginning of episode 4.
It really does, and that actually leads us into Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, or also known as Star Wars, the one that started it all.
Right. And question, I mean,
yes.
do you think that Star Wars A New Hope should just remain Star Wars, or do you approve of its renaming? Because it originally wasn't named Star Wars A New Hope.
Right, it was originally called Star Wars.
Star Wars.
And I think Star Wars Episode 5 was originally called The Empire Strikes Back. Or maybe Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back. I'm not really sure the naming conventions. But
I have to look at.
As a outside quote-unquote fan looking in and coming in and exploring the Star Wars timeline without being an original fan of it, I would have to agree calling it Star Wars Episode 4 A New Hope would be its proper title, along with the same similar naming conventions for Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, I agree.
But to the original fans, I completely understand if you always consider A New Hope just Star Wars.
Right.
So A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, watching all three back to back. Do you agree?
Yes.
Then I have next on my list is Star Wars Skeleton Crew, which is a short that's supposed to be coming out sometime this year. Do you know anything about this?
Nope, I haven't heard a thing. What did you call it again?
Star Wars Skeleton Crew. Look it up real quick. Skeleton Crew, upcoming American science fiction television series created by John Watts and Christopher Ford. It is. The series follows 4 children who end up on an adventure to make their way home after being lost in the galaxy following a discovery they make on their home planet.
On an adventure to get back home. Interesting.
So, Skeleton Crew is supposed to take place at the same time as Ahsoka, The Book of Boba Fett, and The Mandalorian.
Okay. I can't say one way or the other when to put that or if it should be watched, but I'm really enjoying the... We're just going to call it the Mandalorian timeline.
Okay.
I enjoy the series that have been in that era. It feels so much more like the original trilogy.
Okay.
With the design of the costumes, the way it's produced. I would say that those books or those movies feel really, really Star Warsy, and none of those go against Star Wars Legacy.
Are you talking about the shows and not the movies?
The shows.
The Mandalorian, because that's what I have next on my timeline.
Yeah, or Legends, and none of those movies or shows go against Star Wars Legends.
What is Star Wars Legends?
The timeline that Disney destroyed. Yeah.
And that's what they officially call it?
Yeah, they call it that now because Disney, when they got rid of it, they got rid of so many books.
Now, is it just the books that they declared non-canon, or is it like games and other shows as well?
Games, shows, everything.
Everything. They got to pick and choose what they decided was canon or not.
They did. And Clone Wars only probably made the cut because Disney had already been helping with that.
Could you make the argument that everything is considered canon, just taking place in an alternate timeline?
Well, I think Disney's finally starting to learn that that's what they're going to have to do. Because they've actually talked about making another movie based in the Legends timeline.
Interesting. I'd love to hear about that in our next segment. So, speaking of The Mandalorian, you're talking about watching the first season of that, and then jumping into Ahsoka, and then going back into The Mandalorian?
It's either the first... How many seasons of The Mandalorian are there?
That's a good question.
I'm trying to remember.
Let's go check out The Mandalorian.
Mandalorian. There is
Season so far?
three seasons.
3 seasons. Okay, I've only seen the first 2.
And it may be the end of the second season, or towards the end of the second season that Ahsoka's brought in.
Okay.
And I'm not exactly sure when that story picks up officially.
Yeah.
But honestly, I would just watch The Mandalorian, and then I would go watch Ahsoka. And there's going to be a little bit of crossover. Oh, that already happened. But I would still just... I mean, now, the Book of Boba Fett has to be watched before the third season of Mandalorian.
Gotcha. Okay. So
That is Mandalorian season 2.5.
Gotcha. So these 3 shows basically intertwine with each other, with Skeleton Crew kind of sliding its way in.
Correct.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. Have you watched the Book of the Boba Fett?
I have not. I've heard very generic, mediocre things about it. I heard it's like all right.
It is a Book of Boba Fett. Sorry, a show about Boba Fett.
Right.
For the first 4 episodes,
Mm-hmm.
and then it turns into a Mandalorian show.
Because he's technically a Mandalorian, right?
Yes, but no, it literally brings in the Mandalorian.
So there's a crossover event going on.
But that takes over the entire second half of the season. It literally shifts into another Mandalorian season.
Okay, let me
That's
write
why
this
I
down.
call it 2.5.
Gotcha. Let me write this down.
You got season 3 of Mandalorian picks up where Boba Fett ends.
So I got the Mandalorian seasons 1 and 2 to start off with. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Correct. And then you would watch the Book of Boba Fett. Where does Ahsoka
Correct.
fit in all this?
Intertwined. I would just watch Ahsoka by itself when you have a chance.
Good.
But you really can't watch season 3 of The Mandalorian without watching the Book of Boba Fett.
Gotcha. Awesome. After all that posh posh, we got Tales of the Empire, Morgan Elsbeth tale that is supposed to release next month on the 4th. You know anything about this one?
Tales of the what?
Tales of the Empire. Apparently it's a new show coming out. Because before we had Tales of the Jedi, and now they're making Tales of the Empire, specifically over Morgan Elsbeth. I have no idea who this character is.
You don't know who Morgan Elsbeth is?
If I do, I probably from passing, and I don't quite remember who that was.
Right. He was... I'm trying to remember exactly how to... So Morgan, she's a Force-sensitive human. She's part of the Night Sisters. But Tales of the Empire, a journey into the fearsome galactic empire through the eyes of 2 warriors. Okay. I probably won't enjoy it. Just because the Empire's dead, but yet they're still trying to keep it alive.
Isn't that the point of the First Order? Isn't that like the Empire revived or something?
Yeah. Well, let's wait till the next segment. We'll talk all about that there.
All right. And then we have Tales of the Empire, Barriss Offee's tale. I don't know who that is, and I don't specifically have that slotted in anywhere. I couldn't find very much information on Barriss Offee.
And I couldn't tell you either.
Okay, so that's just an enigma at this point. Then we go into the 1985 show Star Wars Ewoks. Did you ever see this one?
I heard about it. I never actually saw it. No.
Okay, considering it's 1985, it's probably not worth watching today. And shortly after, we have actually the 1984 Caravan of Courage and Ewok Adventure. Probably not worth
Probably the
watching
same
either.
thing. Probably not worth watching.
And then after that, we have 1985 Ewoks Battle for Endor.
They really held really hard to those Ewoks because they were cute and cuddly.
I never understood that. I mean, okay, I understand maybe like there's an appeal to certain people, why Ewoks were freaking adorable at the time, but it's like what are they, Pogs and the sequel trilogy? I never really understood.
Yeah, well, I mean,
maybe that's not the little penguin guys. You know what I'm talking about?
I do know what you're talking about, but it's also like Pikachu.
Yeah, they're essentially mascots for the, I guess, trilogy.
Yeah, just mascots.
All right, so skipping all that, probably not even worth watching. We got Star Wars Resistance that came out in 2018. So, have you seen it?
No.
No?
Now that is supposedly right before the New Jedi Order?
That is around the turn of the First Order. At least that's how I labeled the generation of Star Wars.
Oh, yes.
You seen it?
I have seen it, and I love it.
Oh. Okay, so you definitely recommend it.
I do.
Does it fit well?
For the Disney timeline.
For the Disney, okay. Does it fit well in between, I guess, the crossover events of the different shows and the sequel trilogy?
Yes.
Okay. So after that is the sequel trilogy, episodes 7, 8, and 9.
Correct.
Okay. We're just going to skip right past that. And that's the end of the timeline. Now, there's another show that I haven't exactly slotted anywhere quite yet. It's the Star Wars Holiday Special. Have you seen it?
Yes.
I heard it's not really good.
Can you just can you cut that part out of this entire segment? I mean, seriously, it's not even worth talking about. It's one of the things that people laugh at and should never have been made.
So it's not even worth bringing up.
No.
So it's a good thing that I know barely anything about it.
Next time we're on, we're gonna watch it together.
Oh God, you just want to torture me, don't you?
I do.
Yep. Get the drinks ready. Well, that's the end of my timeline.
There is enough.
Yeah.
Oh, that is the end of your timeline.
That's the end. Yeah, that's the end.
Nothing else matters.
Nothing else matters. Yeah, that it ends with episode 9, and nothing else has released in the timeline after episode 9. Probably because the sequel trilogy was something, Go ahead.
Oh no, you're good.
Do you have any issues with the timeline that I have stated here today?
I do have issues with allowing for episodes 7, 8, and 9 to even be considered to be part of the timeline.
I mean, they're official
products
that released.
Okay, but think about it this way. Episode 7 is literally a remake of episode 4. 100%. There, you can almost scene by scene go, oh, planet, droid, desert planet, find things. Ooh, has the something that can help destroy the blah blah blah. Ooh, Millennium Falcon, escape. Oh, find the lightsaber. Be trained. It is episode 7 was the worst idea that Bad Robot ever did. And yes, I'm throwing that all on Bad Robot. It could have been Disney, but it was the director at Bad Robot that pushed to have his own vision of Star Wars. And it wasn't even his own vision.
Okay.
He just retold episode 4, and Disney was kind of stuck with it. But Disney approved it, so that also goes back to it's all Disney's fault.
Who is Bad Robot? Keep bringing
You
him up.
don't know who Bad Robot is?
Are we talking about J.J. Abrams?
Yes, we're talking about J.J. Abrams.
Okay, I never
But it's not
heard
just him.
I never heard of reference as Bad Robot before.
Oh, that's his company.
Oh. Okay.
Bad Robot is J.J. Abrams' company.
I didn't know that.
Oh, well, you learn something new every day.
I suppose so. Alright, Iron, you were talking about Bad Robot. Can you explain exactly why you don't like Bad Robot?
Oh, I just don't like J.J. Abrams having destroyed. Like, if you actually go back and watch the documentaries and interviews with um, George Lucas,
Yeah.
he was actually kicked out of some of the. He was told that he would be able to be in there and help have a say, but then he was actually ended up getting kicked out of the the story process after he sold Disney the rights, even though they had told him that he could, still be part of it.
Yeah, let's go ahead and
Um,
explore that situation real quick. I believe it happened back in 2012, if I'm not mistaken, that Disney was able to buy the Star Wars IP.
right.
Were you there watching it all unfold at the time?
I was.
Can you
I mean, I wasn't there, but I was, I was paying attention.
But yeah, you were watching it happen in real time. Can you explain more about that?
I was in the middle of reading a book series that was released. I'm trying to find it real quick. It was released around that same time. And it was called, The Fate of the Jedi.
Okay.
And so The Fate of the Jedi was the latest series in the Star Wars canon that had been around.
Of the legacy, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
But this was before that, before Legends ever became a thing.
Excuse me, Legends. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, this was just the story. And when it was bought out, there was already another series in the works, because Fate of the Jedi kind of left some things unexplained.
Okay. So it ended off on a cliffhanger of sorts.
It kind of did.
Yeah.
And then when Disney bought it, they are like, okay, well, we're gonna redo some things. We're going to decanonize all of these books.
There has been a change in management.
Yeah. And so all of these hundreds of books all of a sudden just disappeared.
So what books are we talking about? Which ones have you read?
Oh, okay.
I'm sure you got a list going.
I do. All right. So, if you're taking a look here, every there is books all the way from 25 BBY, right? This was 25,000 years before.
Wow. Okay.
Right? I've
Actually,
read
the Old Republic.
Lost of the Tribe series.
Okay.
I've read some of the Old Republic of Revan, The Deceived, Fatal. Pretty much, actually, the Old Republic, I pretty much have read all of those. Bane, Jedi Apprentices.
Wow.
All right, and then it comes down here: Secrets of the Jedi, The Cloak of Deception, and then Episode 1, and then you have this book called Rogue Planet, which I don't understand why this didn't make it into Disney's timeline, but
Okay.
it was literally, it happened right after Phantom Menace,
Mm-hmm.
and it's them together and him trying to learn how to be this Padawan to this supposed chosen one. And
Okay.
I mean, it was written back in what, year 2000?
Okay.
So it's not like it's a new book,
Yeah, I see that.
right?
Right.
Um, and so somehow it didn't make canon. But yeah, I remember my mom buying that for me. I was a sophomore in high school. Um, and reading that and going, "Oh my goodness." And then you see all these books. There's actual books in between the movies.
Yeah.
Um, and some of these are series. So you've got the Jedi quests, and these are all like Anakin learning how to do things, and these are just amazing books.
Right.
And then you have the Boba Fett book. Oh my goodness.
That's one to
Um,
read.
yeah, wonderful. And then you have the Clone Wars books. This is kind of what the Clone Wars TV show was based off of.
Okay.
Um, Now I haven't read all of these, but then when you come down, I'm trying to find uh, the Han Solo book. That was really good. Oh, the last of the Jedi, by Jude Watson.
Yeah.
That was right after episode 3. Oh my, 100%, so good to read.
Okay.
Um, and these follow.
So
Um,
many.
yeah,
The way I see it is because I'm kind of, I guess, more or less a newcomer into the Star Wars universe. I kind of wanted, like, especially with my busy schedule, I wanted to kind of restrict myself to just watching, I guess, moving picture media, if you will.
Oh, I
Just
hear you.
shows, games, and the movies themselves. So if I wanted to get into reading the books, I would, I guess, devote myself even more of a Star Wars fan. I think the books are in comic books and all that. Should I feel like those are relegated to the more in-depth Star Wars fan, such as
And
yourself.
I understand that. And you could even go as far as, hey, I'm going to listen to them. And you see over here on the right,
I see that.
the X's. Some of these have
Oh,
audio, and some of them don't.
right, a lot of them do not. Lost to
Um,
time. Well, in the
but
sense that they're just books right now.
um, right, and they are. The New Jedi Order, that is all on audio. I don't know why it says it's not. Um, oh, the abridged. Yeah,
Okay.
they were slightly abridged, but the New Jedi Order, an amazing series. Then you have the Dark Nest. So the New Jedi Order, if you want to take a look here, that sets up um Han and Leia, um and their kids, Luke and Mara Jade and her kids, or their kid, and then creating this new Jedi Order, but something happens and there's a war that goes on,
Yeah.
um, which goes down into the Dark Nest series.
Okay.
But I will say, if you wanted a book to read that 100%, hold on, I'm trying to find it on. Yeah, there it is. Um, there is a book called The Thrawn. Thrawn. Go up. That's the Hand of Thrawn. You need to go up a little bit more.
There it is.
Right there. That is audio, and The Heir to the Empire, Dark Force Rising, and The Last Command. For the longest time, people thought that that was going to be 7, 8, and 9. That was going to be the next series.
The next the official sequel
Right.
trilogy, right?
Right.
Uh,
That's what everybody
they're,
honestly thought that that was going to be the case.
yeah, they were written in the early '90s, before the
And
original trilogy.
right. No, not before the original trilogy.
Excuse me, not the original trilogy. Why did I say that? Prequel trilogy. Before
Before the prequels, yes.
Before the prequels.
Yes. But
To me, those are the originals because those are the first ones I watched.
Right, I understand that. Timothy Zahn, he actually still writes Star Wars books today. And he is an amazing author. Any of his books are by far the best. But I would say those three books are what 7, 8, and 9 should have been. And when Disney decided to get rid of you see this. This is not a small list, right?
No, it's like the
This is
official timeline I've been looking for. How did I not see this before? Because it includes all the movies, the shows, some games, even, all in one specific timeline. This is what I was looking for.
This
is amazing.
right here is by far Disney's worst thing they've ever done. Is by decanonizing this.
Oh.
So
let's take a look at Disney canon stories. Let's see what they got.
Nothing.
High Republic. What is the High Republic? First I'm hearing about this.
It's a new series that is just now. They're releasing the phases.
Oh, it's just all books and stuff. Okay.
Right. 2021, 2022, 2023. These are all brand new books.
Gotcha. Okay, so looks like the first two phases have been released already.
Right. I just bought Into the Dark and The Light of the Jedi. The High Republic Phase 1. I just bought those.
Okay.
And I'm about to start listening to those.
Are they okay? All audio.
Yeah.
Okay, and then they're official.
Right.
This
and
is
you see,
interesting.
You see how few books there are between episode 1 and 3?
Yeah, it's like they're completely rewriting everything.
Right. Honestly, if they could, they would get rid of episodes 1, 2, and 3. Personally, I think they would.
Or maybe do like a specific reboot to those.
Right.
Oh.
But yeah, you see how little. Now you look over here. So that is Thrawn.
Okay, by Timothy Zahn.
And by Timothy Zahn. So this is a newer book written in 2017.
Yep.
Of the same character.
Right.
But he was allowed to bring it into Disney's universe. But it's still the same character.
So who is Thrawn? I don't think I've ever seen this guy before.
So Thrawn is, or Grand Admiral, is he's from another race. I can't remember the name of the race. But he is very, very calculating. He's one of the only Grand Admirals that the Emperor allowed to be non-human, because the Emperor was very racist. And that's in all canons. Doesn't matter if it's Disney or not. And so he actually, because Thrawn was so calculating, he actually was allowed to be this Grand Admiral, but he sent him on these wild goose chases.
Okay.
And so it became this huge thing where he was like sent on missions that shouldn't succeed, but Thrawn would end up still winning.
Like he's featured in Rebels.
He is. He is featured in Rebels.
Just haven't gotten that far yet.
But yeah, so going back to of all of these books from the original time, or the Legends, I've probably read about 100 of those books. Wow. I've probably read only about 15 to 20 of the Disney. Cool, 2 different timelines, but I just hate that Disney just said Legends is dead and they're not going to do anything with it, because that storyline was just so good.
Well, there's always fan fiction.
There is, but they can't. Disney has pretty much locked down all books.
Well, they can't legally sell it, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
They can always write it, but it won't get very much fanfare.
But these authors are, I mean, that was how they made their life.
That's how they're made. Yeah.
I mean, there was a
Yeah.
group of 5 or 6 people that worked together to write a lot of these books. And while one was writing one book, yeah, Troy Denning, Aaron Allison, Karen, and Karen Travis, they would alternate,
Oh,
and they would already know what the entire series was supposed to be.
wow.
And while one was writing one book, the other one was writing the next book, and they were released about every 6 months, if not even sooner. If you actually look, I mean, Legacy of the Force, you had Betrayal, Bloodlines, and Tempest all released in 2006.
Right.
Exile, Sacrifice, Inferno, and Fury were all released in 2007. So these were books. They were shorter books,
Hmm.
only about 200 and something pages long.
Right.
But and this is just where I'm going with. I think that Disney did a huge injustice, and so many people today, that didn't grow up with these books, they're probably just fine with the mediocre, movies and storylines that Disney is putting out. But
Right. I got you. Let's go ahead and
yeah,
talk about the sequel trilogy, the crux of why we have a problem with Disney taking over the IP in the first place. What issues did you have specifically with the sequel trilogy?
okay, I think we've already kind of talked about it, but episodes 7 and 4 were almost mirrored.
Yeah, it's what it looked like. It's like they wanted to make episode 7 to capture the hearts of what made Star Wars so great to begin with. But in my opinion, it's just almost like a blatant rehash, like a blatant copy of episode 4. The only thing different about it, in my opinion, was probably the time, or I guess this the side story of Finn, how he's like a defective clone, or not clone, stormtrooper.
Right.
He changed over, he switched sides essentially, but they didn't really dive too much into that, did they?
No, and it was just like a way for them to have him there. But no, the storyline wasn't well designed. Um, but I will tell you one of the biggest reasons why I think 7, 8, and 9 don't exist in my books is the simple fact that they made Han and Leia divorced. That crushed me so much
Not to mention
because
that. Oh yeah, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Well, it seemed like in episode 7, they brought back Han as a callback to him from the original trilogy, which is great. But it didn't seem like he experienced any change. He was still the same smuggler, smart mouth kind of fast flying pilot that you've seen in the original trilogy. But it kind of stuck in his old ways. He never really
Grew up.
yeah, he never grew up from he never like finished his character arc. He kind of went back to the way he was, and that kind of bothered me a bit.
100%. That he went back into his old ways. He was Han Solo from episode 4, not Han Solo from episode 6.
Right.
And they made them divorced. Um, they couldn't even, like, from the original trilogy, or from the original books that they decanonized. Leia and Han had 3 kids. Luke had 1 kid, and Luke's kid was named Ben. And
Oh.
so, like, yeah. So they took Ben, the idea of Ben, and moved him over. But if you actually read the original books, Han and Leia did have a kid that turned to the dark side. That's that actually happened in the originals.
Okay.
So cool. That story's in there. But instead of naming him what he was named in the originals, which was Jason, and then he turned into Darth Kitus, um, they decided to change his name to Ben, which was actually Luke's kid. And so, like, yes, that okay, cool, Disney rewriting things, but they made Luke a hermit, and I never saw Luke turning into a hermit after episode 6. That wasn't something that would have like ever crossed my mind that he would have turned into a hermit.
Yeah, I mean, he's too much of an optimist. I never really saw him to be that kind of character. It
Mm-mm.
was quite bizarre to see him, I guess, turn that way. After watching the sequel trilogy a couple of times, can you explain exactly who the First Order is and what their deal is? Even to this day, I still don't know.
So the First Order would be the attempts to bring back the Empire.
Okay,
And the First Order is it would be like the inner circle, the of the I don't know exactly how to explain it. The elite, they were
It-
the Marines of the army.
yeah, they made him out to be like the big bad guys, but exactly how
Right.
did they come to power? Where did they come from?
I think that they were actually part of the Emperor's original thing. They just weren't really but when the Emperor fell, they kind of filled in the void.
Okay,
Um in the original books, Thrawn did that because he was a Grand Admiral.
right.
He came in and he kind of filled that void. But I think that they tried to take Thrawn's essence and make the First Order do that for him,
Gotcha.
which didn't make sense to me as much, and they really didn't explain it. Just like you're like asking me, I don't think they explained it well enough.
Not even the
Um,
slightest. So how does Snoke fit into all of this? What's his deal?
that's a good question. Um,
A big old ugly bad guy who.
I mean, honestly, I have no clue where Snoke would have come from because he's like centuries old, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's this massive thing. The Emperor would never have allowed that to happen. So he's all of a sudden there. He's in charge, but
He's
he's
large and in charge.
yeah, like Snoke makes no sense unless he is actually a clone, which they officially, I think, came out and said no, Snoke wasn't a clone, but they were making a clone, and so I have no clue. The idea of Snoke, I think, was just them also trying to go with the Emperor, and since the Emperor was already dead, they had to come up with someone that was now in charge.
Okay, yeah. According to my research, it seemed like they were making Snoke as like the big bad guy of the entire trilogy. But then Ryan Johnson came in. And he's like, "No, I'm going to do my own thing." Just completely scrapped up what J.J. Abrams was working on, and wound up killing off Snoke at the end of the second of the movies. And that's what threw me for a loop because we knew barely anything about this guy, and when he's finally introduced, he's like this big menacing factor. But all of a sudden, he's like wiped off the map just as quickly. And when J.J. Abrams got back hold of the reins, he was trying to rush and fix exactly what Ryan Johnson just threw away, and that's kind of the reason why they brought back Palpatine for some odd reason. Am I too off track here?
Nope,
I'm trying
that's
to
exactly it.
I'm trying to piece together exactly what was going on in the brains of these guys, because the whole trilogy is just a mess. The episode 7 looked like it was on track to build up to what the original trilogies could, well, I guess were, which was a great trilogy. But then all of a sudden, episode 8 came out and just completely derailed the entire project.
Well, I mean, it's what you get for not having um, story writers that actually have an overall arcing story that is agreed upon. and it's also the fault of the overall producers for allowing for these directors to come in there and destroy, throw away, and get rid of things that were already set up.
Yeah.
Um, and then it's also Disney's fault for, you know, doing exactly what Disney does. And they try to save money by getting rid of J.J. Abrams and bringing in um, a new director. And then when they realized how much that screwed things up, they tried to bring J.J. Abrams back, and he couldn't fix. I mean, he couldn't have fixed his own version, much less fixing what someone else already screwed up.
Yeah, episode 9 was a complete mess. It just seemed like it was a patchwork of trying to fix what episode 8 threw away.
Oh yeah,
Or just completely burned to the ground.
and now that they're trying to do, they've already announced that there's going to be 10, 11, 12, and it's going to be
Is
based.
there?
Oh, have you not seen this yet?
I have not. I know nothing about it.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is news to me.
So Star Wars, the new Jedi Order, and it's got Rey Skywalker. She decided to take the name of Skywalker, even though she's not a Skywalker.
Well, that's essentially what it alluded to at the very end of the final movie.
No, she's not a Skywalker.
Well, I know she's not really a Skywalker, but I mean that's what a lot of theories were saying. That she really was. I don't know if that was another fix that J.J. Abrams was trying to do.
Probably. Yeah, no, the idea of Rey never made sense at all. But yeah, so there's Star Wars is making 10, 11, 12, and they're based around Rey. There is a video, or there is a trailer out there. Watch it on your own free time.
Oh, well.
It's horrible. Sorry.
I'll take your word for it.
I'm sure that the trailer's good in some ways. I'm just still upset that they're trying to hold on to the wreck that they created, instead of trying to go, hey, we created this wreck, what are we gonna do? But yeah, so that's my opinion. I think Disney needs to turn around and go, hey, we're going to go ahead and go back into the Legends and start, even if it's a cartoon, and start making some cartoon movies. I think they would have so many fans that would jump behind them, as if they pulled in and did the Thrawn trilogy and the Legacy of the Force, the new Jedi Order. It would actually bring a whole new life back into the books or the movies.
Okay. Yeah, if I'm ever going to get around to reading any of the books, I would definitely start with Thrawn, because that seems like it's the most interesting bunch.
I mean, and the fact that it's audio, and the person that does the audio reading is absolutely amazing. He's been doing the audio readings for such a long time. Even the new books I just bought are also narrated by him. So, I'm trying to remember his name. I can't find it right now.
No, it's all good. Is there anything else you would like to add before we wrap it up for the night?
No. I think I went on a huge tangent. Sorry about that.
Oh, it's all good. It's all relevant. All right. So we're going to go ahead and jump into our next segment of the night, which I call The Hobbyist. This is where I ask my guests what you have been doing, working on, or having fun with lately.
Well, as you know, I've been working on a Pokemon game. Trying to work on the story.
What's this Pokemon game about?
So I am using Pokemon Essentials, which is fan-made add-on to RPG Maker.
Okay.
And it allows you to pretty much create your own Pokemon game, but it's all it really is allowing you to make a story, and it has all the basics of Pokemon into it. And
It's
so
amazing.
I am basing my story in Australia, um, and I'm having a lot of fun trying to create some Pokemon that would fit into that region, and then trying to build the story out enough that I can go ahead and, I don't know, create the alpha version of the game so I can get my friends to play it and see if they enjoy it.
Nice. When do you expect I guess the alpha release of this game?
Probably by the end of May.
Oh wow, that's soon.
Um,
Okay, that's awesome.
Maybe if not, I mean, just for the alpha, I'll probably only have it go up to the first gym. Um, and so it's not going to be that much built into it. It will just be the opening story, the traditional going back and forth, making sure you get your Pokedex, just like old Pokemon games, and
Okay,
then um, it will lead you to your first gym, and then after that, it will open up, and you can go to any gym you want to after that.
that's awesome. So, do you have like the I guess the main storyline laid out?
Mostly, um, it's a work in progress. I'm still trying to figure out exactly where it's going to end up. I have some people coming up with some ideas about if it's going to be where you go and go through the Elite Four. Then there's been some other ideas thrown out there that we may change that up. So yeah, no, it's still. I mean, it may be May before I even lock down the story, but we'll see what happens.
All right. Well, best of luck to you. It all sounds very exciting, and I can't wait to
Thank
hear
you,
more about it.
thank you.
All right. All right. Next segment, we are going to go into the free games of the week. The segment
Woo!
where we go over the free games that you can find in the Epic Game Store, Amazon Prime, PlayStation Plus, and Nintendo Switch Online. Starting with Epic Games, this week, at the time of this recording, we have The Big Con, Town of Salem 2, and the following week, you can pick up Industria and Lisa the Definitive Edition. Now, on Epic Game Store, you don't need a subscription of any kind. You can just open up an account and pick up these games absolutely for free and play them at any time. Have you heard of any of these games?
Um, no. I mean, I may have actually, but I'm trying to remember them.
Yeah,
No.
yeah, they're not exactly big name titles. I've heard of Town of Salem 1 at the very least. It's more like a werewolf style game.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's that. If you can pick that up if you got an account for Epic Game Store. Now, if you have a Prime subscription with Amazon Prime, you can go to gaming.amazon.com to pick up these games over here. Now, since the release of the Fallout TV show, Fallout has gotten a big boon in popularity.
Yeah.
So you can pick up Fallout 76 for both Xbox and PC, Fallout Tactics Brotherhood of Steel, Bus Simulator 21 The Next Stop, Black Desert, Rose Riddle The Fairy Tale Detective Collector's Edition, Dexter Stardust Adventures in Outer Space, Faraway Arctic Escape, Drawn Trail of Shadows, Faraway 2, Jungle Escape, Through the Darkest of Times, Bridge to Another World, Secrets of the Nutcracker, Pearls of Atlantis the Cove, Chivalry 2, and Demon's Tilt. Heard of any of these?
Yes.
Have you played any of
I
them?
I own Fallout 76, but I played it when it first dropped, and there were so many things wrong with it during that time.
Would
I
you
haven't.
recommend going back to it today?
I've heard some good things that they've changed and fixed a lot of things, so
Mm-hmm.
I can't say one way or the other. Um, what is Fallout Tactics?
It's an old game. Let me go ahead and go to Wikipedia, see if I can pull up an article for it. I know it's an older game before Bethesda took over and made their own games out of it.
Okay.
Fallout Tactics Brotherhood of Steel is a game from '01, and it's essentially the same isometric type
Oh,
Fallout games from 1 and 2, and I think it might be a spinoff. Based
Gotcha.
Set in the post-apocalyptic Fallout universe. Follows a squad of the Brotherhood of Steel, and you follow their adventure. It does not follow or continue the story of either Fallout or Fallout 2, so it's essentially a spin-off.
It's a spin-off.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
So if you have a Amazon Prime membership, you can pick these up and add them to your account. Over on PlayStation Plus, if you have a subscription there, at the very least, you can pick up Immortals of Avium, Minecraft Legends, and Skull the Hero Slayer this month. Have you played any of these?
No, but I have been looking. Been looking forward to playing Immortals. I haven't done that yet, so now that I know it's free,
Yeah. Save a
check it
world
out.
of the abyss by mastering magic to unleash deadly spells on of enemies and stop the Ever War. Sounds exciting.
Yeah. And then Minecraft Legends. That's interesting.
That's I believe an RPG of Minecraft itself.
Yeah, I think so too.
Feature allies in a strategic battles against piglins set on ravaging the rich resources and lush biomes of the overworld.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then over in Nintendo Land, if you have a subscription to NSO, you can pick up Wrecking Crew 98, Super R-Type, and Amazing Hebereke. Have you played any of these?
No, but I'm not sure. I mean, a Mario puzzler, cool. And actually, you know what? That sounds like something my wife would like. Wrecking Crew. She loves puzzle games.
So this is specifically Wrecking Crew 98. I have played the original Wrecking Crew on the NES, but this particular one was specifically released in Japan only.
Okay.
I think it features... You can play the original Famicom game or the updated Super Famicom. So this is a Super Famicom version of the game.
Nice. And the fact that, yeah, she might like that.
Yeah, and then Super R-Type is a shoot 'em up. And then you got Amazing Hebereke, which was only released for the Super Famicom in Japan, and I barely know it. But might be worth playing today.
Oh, yeah.
Alright. Alright, after that we are going to go into the poll of the week. The question is, how do you feel about the direction Disney has taken with the Star Wars franchise? And I would like to hear your opinions on the community tab on the Tales of the Basement YouTube channel. Of course, you've already heard our takes about it. Moving on. I would like to hear all of yours. And the next segment is featured comments. If you would like a chance to have your comment featured in future episodes, by all means, place them in the comments below. I will definitely read them. And is there anything else you would like to add before we sign off tonight?
No, I think this is great, and I'm excited for our next time, and that's it.
All right, I really appreciate it. Thank you all for watching Tales from the Basement. Be sure to check in every week for fresh content. If you like what you watched here today, make sure you mash those like and subscribe buttons and ding that bell to be notified for more episodes in the future. I am Joe.
And I am Iron.
And this has been Tales from the Basement. I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.